Welcome to another episode of In the Reel. Today, we're examining Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. If you have not watched The Birds in its entirety, you do not want to watch this video yet. So please, stop the video, go and watch the entire thing because I do not want to spoil anything for you. But if you have watched the entire movie, let's start talking about it. So Alfred Hitchcock leaves so much open to interpretation. There's so many knots that he does not unravel for us. So it's our job as the audience to think about the different topics and themes Alfred Hitchcock suggests. Nowadays, a lot of our films tell us everything, where the character's going to end up. We get a sense that the movie is finished and done. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds doesn't do that. Think about the Brenners and Melanie Daniels driving off the farm through those birds. All we get is this slight hug from Lydia to Melanie, but it doesn't feel quite reassuring. But this is not the most salient detail. What I find most interesting is, where's the climax? Or what is the climax? Because there feels like there's an argument for two places where the climax could occur. Now, most of us are going to think that the attack on Melanie Daniels at the very end of the film is the climax. After all, she's the hero. It's the first time we've seen her attacked so viciously.
This certainly feels like the climax because it's so different from the rest of the film. Here, Hitchcock applies his greatest suspense in the film. Melanie is the only one awake in the Brenner house and she hears the flapping of birds. It makes her the heroine also because she's the one who goes to investigate. She grabs the flashlight, but you know she'll be walking into darkness. And on top of that, Hitchcock applies all the narrative conventions we see in horror. Someone hears something, they go investigate, and it could be deadly. I love that Hitchcock showed us those lovebirds again, these birds being a symbol for the animal kingdom getting along in this moment. I'll talk more about that later. Notice throughout the film, there is no music. There is no music here. The only sounds is that of electronic birds. And here it is eerily silent. The light source is the flashlight and a little bit of light coming through the window. I think this houseplant is quite the interesting choice. It reminds me of a bird of paradise. It's Alfred Hitchcock giving us a little wry wink, that dry British humor. It also looks skeletal to me as well. And here we have that pause again, and that slow motion towards the door handle. Will she go in? Will she not go in? Adding to the suspense. You can see her thinking, should I? Should I not? Notice the amount of time Hitchcock takes and how slow it goes. And we don't see birds right away. We see the open roof. The birds are in. Now we hear all the sound. Now it's going. Now the attack. And notice how this attack is not as big as the gas station and diner attack, but the editing is frenetic. Is this enough for a climax? That is my question. Let's examine that some more.
But if that's the climax, then we have to start wondering, why is Melanie the one we see so fully attacked? I mean, sure, she's the hero, but why didn't we see the farmer? Why didn't we see Annie, the school teacher? Is that what makes this moment climactic? And if Melanie has to be attacked, why? Well, number one, Clearly, she's the outsider. She has more money than anyone else in Bodega Bay. And we know that her past was not perfect. She was a prankster. There are rumors that she fell into a fountain in Rome naked. And not fell into, she went into it. So is she being attacked because she's an outsider? She has more money? She is an independent woman? Because that's what that climax means. Now, what I think is a much more interesting climax, and it says a lot more, if this really is the climax, is the attack on the diner and the gas station. I say this is the climax for one very important reason. There's a recognition before the climax. The people in the diner who do not believe that birds can attack begin to believe it. They realize they're in danger. And the climax begins. Of course, Melanie's the first to notice the birds. And they come down and they attack the gas attendant, which sets gasoline moving down the street. And we feel suspense. And Melanie knows that there's a man getting out of the car lighting a cigar. And she points it out to the other clientele in the restaurants and the workers in the restaurants. And they open the window and they try to stop the man, but it's too late. He gets burned, and the match drops down and sets the gasoline on fire, and he dies. And there's an explosion. And we get these operatic shots from a bird's eye view. And we see Alfred Hitchcock using this new technique that he probably got from his interaction with the French New Wave artists, specifically Truffaut, because they had just had an interview together and shared time together before Hitchcock shot the birds. And you see these amazing jump cuts that, like Breathless, they're jarring, but Hitchcock uses them in such a more elegant way. To me, this is the climax, and everything after it is falling action. And the reason I say this is because it sets up Alfred Hitchcock's message for the film. So many critics say this, and academics say that The Birds is Alfred Hitchcock's one film that has a message attached to it. And my belief is that message is about nature and man and how they get along. And notice, one of the most important features are those two lovebirds. Those lovebirds get along. And they symbolize how all the birds in this film get along and are going after the same objective. Now, birds do not normally get along perfectly. They do not all work together. If you've ever had a birdhouse or a bird feeder outside your home, you'll notice that there's a pecking order. Pigeons are usually the last to feed, if they even get a chance to feed. The little sparrows and titmouses and swallows get to feed first, but the moment a blue jay comes in, everybody clears. There's a pecking order. But we don't see that in the birds. We see all these birds working together. And in stark contrast, the humans cannot get together. They're arguing, they're bickering, they're blaming Melanie Daniels, especially in that diner scene with the mother, with her children, who's very scared and tells everyone to stop talking, you're scaring the children. She tells Melanie Daniels she's evil. Nothing like this happened before she came to town. We get this idea of the scapegoat. And I think right there is one of the most important messages. There are many messages you can get from the birds. But one of the most important messages, we have to work together to make things right. And if you think about the farmer, he's cleared crops, he's cleared land. Was that habitat for birds? Have we cleared way too much wilderness and made life too hard for the animals we're supposed to be stewards of? Is this one of the messages? It feels like that's the message, because at the end of the film, the denouement is all of those birds. They now have the Brenner farm, and the Brenners are driving off, and Melanie Daniels is left shocked. All she says at the end of the film is, "No, no." There's no words. She can't find them. And is this a heroine? She is a heroine, but she's totally devastated. And that hug of reassurance. Why does Lydia at that moment finally like her? Sure, Melanie went out after her daughter at the school and got her back home safely. But is it because now Melanie is weak? She's no longer independent. Now she can be a part of the family. Now Lydia feels that she has to help her. She has someone who will need her. And therefore she'll be able to keep Mitch with him. That's what the climax would mean if the attack is about Melanie. I think Melanie is a stand-in for everybody. I hope this video has given you a lot to think about. And I hope it's taken you deeper into the realness of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Thank you for spending some time with me. Have a great day.